got a couple of questions from Smoke Easy, a few questions for EVS. What is the end goal of ComicsGate? There's like two more questions, but the first one is, what is the end goal of ComicsGate?
The end goal of ComicsGate is just to have a functioning. I mean, we don't know how it's going to be yet. It's hard to tell the future. It's hard to tell if this is going to become a company. Right now, it's not. It's just a philosophy and a movement that allows people to crowdfund their own comics, and you know, I would like it to be self-sustaining. I don't run ComicsGate myself. I know it's tempting to just you know, to always just kind of assert myself as the guy who says how things have to go, but I'm not that person. I keep, you know, it's the fans, it's everybody who's involved with it. Everybody kind of has a say. Everybody roundly, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody with ComicsGate.
I always wondered, like, why wasn't there a company? Like, in the past, there has been companies made up of people that used to work in DC and Marvel that were fed up with things, how it worked, and then created their own companies, and eventually those companies got bought up by DC or Marvel.
Wasn't that the story with, like...
That's Image.
Yeah, that's the story of Image.
So why hasn't that been done? Is it just not the... People just didn't think the market was there?
It does happen, but they eventually get bought up, or they end up getting crushed under the market because, again, before the internet, there were only so many mediums to get your message out on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. You know, building your own comic book company in this day and age just seems incredibly risky. It seems better to be like every man for himself and then crowdfund, self-promote, market, rather than one big company. And it might come to that eventually, but the other problem is that we really do need to, like, use this phrase, raise awareness about our ideas and our own comic books before we were to ever join up and then put them out together as a single entity.
Become great as individuals and have properties before you go under a banner.
Yeah. Because, you know, that again, I see these companies start up and it's just like, hey, we're putting out 8 books and you've never heard of any of them, but trust us. You know, it's like, that just seems like, you know, it seems like a one-way trip to failure. Not you failure, but to, you know, failure. And that's not going to work out. Why not just get out there, put out your comic book for a long time, do it your own way, and then people will know.
Get some properties and stuff. Get some names out there that people know, that they like. Get some things that people want. And down the line, if you can get them all under a banner, that's how you do it. They just did the same thing in independent wrestling. This is what you do. You get names that people want to see, because you can't just throwing up a label to throw up a label. That's what every goofy fucking rapper did between 1999 and 2007, and how many of them fucking stuck around?
Yeah, the end goal is just to create a self-sustaining, you know, comic book entity. Enterprise.
Tell me if I'm wrong in phrasing it this way. I wouldn't even say that it's to make a self-sustaining entity an enterprise, but right now the short-term goal would be to establish a confidence within independent creators and people who have broke off from the big two in themselves that they do not need the mainstream backing. Right now, the short-term goal is to establish confidence.
That's the very short-term goal. That's not the end goal.
Yeah.
That's just the immediate goal that's going to happen in November and December when our first batch of comics start to ship.
The end goal is to become not even a powerhouse in the market, but just to establish a corner of the market. That's it.
All right. So that leads to question 2, says Smoke Easy.
Oh, it does. It does. It leads to it. But was that a fair representation of you guys?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
I want to make sure. All right. The second question, comics are already a niche market, and if the SJWBS is already being rejected by consumers, what is the issue? This I could kind of, I want to half lead you into a spot here. This has a lot to do with that big comics convention where the people who own the stores they gave out huge, I heard, for like an hour or two at Marvel Comics at this big meeting. And Marvel Comics just continues to shovel shit down their throat.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about that meeting. I watched a video or two about, and I read an article about it. I was amazed that that happened, where the stores just said, "To hell with this." But do you have any insight on that meeting? Because that meeting seems to encapsulate that question. If it's being rejected by the consumers, what's the issue? That they don't care. They're going to keep doing it anyway.
Yeah, this is the problem with an ideological movement rather than capitalistic movement. That when when retailers, okay, people who make their living selling Spider-Man comics to customers are complaining to Marvel Comics and saying this doesn't work. We can't sell this shit. And Marvel Comics says, well, that's because you're a bigot. Work harder at selling our shit. That is a one-way trip to nowhere. That's the issue. The issue is that we have ideologues, and when I say that, I know that sounds that's paranoid. It's true.
I got a question.
We have people who,
if you got a comic book store, right, and they buy comics from Marvel, are they required to buy the shitty Marvel comics as well?
Well, they look. How do they know? I mean, they're not required to buy anything. But they need to buy product to sell product. And they're assuming that if they buy an Avengers comic book, it's going to be a good Avengers comic that people are going to want to buy and aren't going to look at it on the shelf and put it right back down again. They're assuming that if they're putting out a book called Iron Man, it's going to be about Tony Stark, and it's going to be continuing the story of Tony Stark. It's not going to be dead Tony Stark, the artificial intelligence, blue, force ghost Tony Stark, who is aiding a sociopathic 16-year-old black teenage girl who has assumed the Iron Man identity for years. This is the thing. This is the problem. They can't sell that. They can't sell it. People can sell Spider-Man all day long. People can sell Tony Stark Iron Man because of the movies, Thor, Avengers. They can sell X-Men. They can't sell this. And that's a real thing. Like when you're taking story decisions, like I'm going to make Captain America a Nazi, and customers are not only refusing to buy that, but maybe they're deciding, maybe I don't like comic books that much anymore after all.
Yeah, maybe it's time for me to get off this ride. Maybe I enjoyed the ride until now. Now seems like a good time to stop. Putting a break in it as huge as, hey, Captain America is now a Nazi. Plenty of people who were all for Captain America, they're like, you know what? Now's as good a time as any to stop.
Right. I'm done.
Now's as good a time as any to just get off the ride.
Comic books are an addiction. People are addicted to buying and reading comic books, but you can break that addiction pretty easily by making it no fun. And it's just been no fun for the longest time. So they're not going to stop though, because that would mean that they admitting that they were wrong. And they don't care about the profits anyway. They're not worried about making money. That doesn't seem to be an issue or a concern to them. They care about changing the world. They care about making the world a better place. Social justice. That's it doesn't pay anyone's bills.
No, shiny, happy feelings don't pay bills. Good intentions don't pay bills. And that's the thing, even if they do have the best intentions in the world, even if these were they were the best intentioned people in the world, which we know they're not. But even if they were, that shit still don't sell.
Right.
That shit doesn't work. Don't sell. Nobody wants it. It's lame.